Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple.
Football at times is a game defined by moments, and we saw just that in Argentina's 3-0 win against Croatia in the World Cup semi-final, thanks to a Julian Alvarez double and a Messi goal. The XG indicated that this was a fair scoreline, but what tactics were on display from both sides, and how did Croatia's Achilles heel come back to bite them? Let's take a quick look. And we'll begin with Argentina in possession, despite them having significantly less of the ball. And despite having much less of the ball, Argentina had a clear game plan both in deeper areas as well as high up the pitch. Initially, when the ball was high up, Croatia could defend with a single forward, although Modric from midfield could look to push higher up alongside Kramaric. However, much like he did in the quarterfinal against Brazil, one of Modric's key roles was to stop the progressive midfielder. So, what we did see is that when Fernandes or Paredes would drop deep at times, Modric would be the man tasked with pressing high on the man in order to make it much more difficult for Argentina to get the ball from deeper to higher. The difference now though was that against Brazil, when he picked up Casemiro, it was only Danilo who was left to progress the ball, who's not that good at progression. But in Paredes and Fernandes, Argentina had two excellent ball progressors, making it much more difficult for Modric to stop the play. Add to this that when Modric was pressing a man, both Fernandes and Paredes were comfortable dropping much deeper to create a back three and drawing Modric higher up the pitch, where Argentina would still have the 3 versus 2 advantage to begin with. Not only that, but having 3 centre-backs deep would now free up the full-backs in Molina and Tagliafico, who could now push much higher up the pitch, allowing McAllister and De Paul, who are both natural midfielders, to tuck in much more. So now, with Modric having been dragged higher up, there were 3 versus 2 down here, and potentially 3 versus 2 down in the central midfield region as well. So here we see that Modric is initially a part of the midfield 3, but Fernandes here is the deepest man. So when he drops deeper to provide an option, Modric is now drawn out towards him, leaving Kovacic and Brozovic deeper. We can also see that both of the fullbacks have now pushed much higher up the pitch, so De Paul and McAllister are now more central as well. So Croatia began defending in a more conservative shape, with Modric dropping back into the midfield alongside Kovacic and Brozovic. But as discussed, Argentina had that clear structure in deep and high areas. So now with Modric applying less pressure here, Fernandes would be able to push up into the midfield, with Otamendi and Romero taking care of the progression against the one forward. But in prior matches, Argentina have attacked with a front 5 that looked like this, and Croatia were aware of this and didn't want to be outnumbered 4 versus 5. So what we could see is Pasalic dropping deeper to make this a man-to-man situation, which would mean that even if Argentina overloaded one side of the pitch and forced the defense to shift across, there would never be the free man on the far side. This was coupled by Croatia moving into an extremely narrow 4-man midfield with Perisic tucking right in, so that the centre was heavily protected with this midfield 4. So Pasalic on the far side helps to make it a back 5, and Perisic will tuck in to make it more of a midfield 4. But Argentina looked to fight fire with fire. So, where Croatia had this midfield 4, rather than pushing McAllister and Messi high up the pitch, both operated as more traditional midfielders for the most part during this match, so that Argentina tended to have a man advantage in the midfield, meaning that space could always be found somewhere, especially as the threat of Alvarez's pace in behind could push the backline deeper. So with the 5 versus 4 advantage at times, we did see Messi have even more influence in this game than he has so far at the World Cup, meaning that he had the most touches for the team, most key passes, and most dribbles, facilitated by this system. And to add to that, at times when Messi was in these zones, Guardiola was quite aggressive in looking to push up on him, so this could leave space in the backline, where runners could look to take advantage of the space created. But again, football is a game of moments, and all 3 Argentina goals were not necessarily from a tactical master plan, but just the sheer quality of players like Julian Alvarez and more pertinently Messi, who has the ability to turn the game at the drop of a hat. But Croatia weren't bad by any extent, so what did they do? Messi wasn't really pressing in this match, so Croatia could get out from the goal kick pretty easily. And Argentina maintained this 4-4-2 shape even in deeper zones. And against the front two, if they needed an extra man, Brozovic would drop in. But again, Messi wasn't pressing, so they could cope with just a two-man defense. And even Kovacic was often able to pick the ball up just outside of Messi. So Brozovic dropping deep wasn't needed for the most part. One of the keys for Croatia, as we saw against Brazil, was to get their fullbacks as high up the pitch as possible early on, allowing their wingers to also tuck in, somewhat similar to Argentina. And like Croatia, Argentina could temporarily drop McAllister into the backline to create a 5 when needed, although this was much less set than Croatia's own shape when they were defending. And the reason that Croatia is usually able to keep possession so well as they did in this match is because they have 3 outstanding deep midfielders in Kovacic, Modric and Brozovic. So in order to accentuate their advantages in the wide regions, all 3 tend to move as a unit onto one side of the pitch, allowing them to keep the ball easily amongst the 3 of them, whilst facilitating movements higher up the pitch. So the midfield 3 of Croatia all shift over to the left-hand side, which then allows Sosa to push higher up the pitch and Perisic to move infield. But Croatia's main problem reared its head once again in this match. All 3 of these midfielders are excellent, but none are really high-volume chance creators, but instead are great at progressing the ball or keeping possession in these deeper regions, even under pressure. And keeping all 3 fairly deep was a tactical ploy by Dalic. So at times it was difficult to find a man between the lines who could be found to actually get Croatia into goal-scoring positions. At times when Perisic did move inside, this would free up Kramaric to be the man who would then drop in. But Kramaric is not a natural attacking midfielder, although he can operate in these regions. This was made worse by the fact that their shape means that it is the fullbacks who are in 1 versus 1 situations, and neither fullback is particularly good at getting past a man with the ball at their feet to then get a cross in. And if they did, having Kramaric dropping deep to be the progressive option would make that harder. So Dalic's substitutions reflected this. We would often see Orsic start wide and then tuck in, and he could be the man to drop in when needed, with the bigger man in Petkovic looking to pin back the centre backs. Perisic starting at left back could then push up, and now he would be in the 1 versus 1 situation. And although that's not his forte, he's better in those scenarios than Sosa is. And now with the genuine forward in the box, if he had gotten past his man, he would have a man to cross to. But that's not how things worked out in this match. So Argentina have reached their second final in 3 World Cups and will be hoping for a different outcome this time. Croatia have done themselves proud yet again, but I want to know your early predictions for the World Cup final. For the manager tactical scores, both managers had clear tactical plans and for the most part seemed to cancel each other out, or with individual quality making the difference. But Croatia were unable to generate even half-decent chances, despite being behind for over an hour. So Dalic earns a 6, while Scaloni gets a 7. But what are your ratings? Drop them down below.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you might enjoy the content available on my Patreon. Not only does Patreon help to support the continued production of content, as I am a one-man team, but it also gives you early access to videos that will come on the channel. You'll also get exclusive videos, get to vote on polls, and so much more. And it's cheaper than ever, no longer having a tier system, so everyone on the Patreon gets access to all the content. So head over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple to check it out.
But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.